is on algorithmically, technically, tactically identifying things that the audience likes and then focusing on those things and building from there. And this is a very different kind of tack. Both work.
This is the right tack, by the way, is to pursue your muse and to do something that's authentically interesting to you.
You and I both agree on like film and the importance of great film, and great directors are the ones that were left the fuck alone. You know, the great directors are the ones who got the deals at the studios where they were told they had complete creative control.
Final cut.
Yeah.
Look, you can still play that game. I have 2 full-time front catalog strategists and 2 back catalog strategists as well for YouTube. So we have a big team that's playing the algo game, they're chopping down clips. So look, I think that, what is it that Ferris says about, in the short term, your results are determined by your intensity, and the long term, your results are determined by your consistency, but don't trade the latter for the former. Mm-hmm. And if you try and go too hard, if you try and do things where you're being ventriloquized by the audience, I'm going to try and reverse engineer what I think the audience wants from me. Which means that if they stop loving you, not only do you not have the one thing you used to have, but you didn't even make a body of work that you cared about either. Mm-hmm. So you end up resenting the audience. And yeah, for me, it's kind of like a bulletproof strategy. You're going to keep going for longer because you like what you do.
So can we talk about monetization? How you think about making money?
Before we get to that, I really want to bang on this just a little bit more. You also made a decision, we were talking before about, we did something lo-fi to just get ourselves in the same space virtually with Zoom for a couple of hours. Your production quality is absolutely stunning. You care about aesthetics, you care about the lighting and the location. Just for the audience here, take us through that decision. And I don't know the earliest part of the catalog, and if you did it to that level. You have done some Zooms, I believe, because Rory's only available on Zoom. But take me through the aesthetic choices you made and why.
Yeah, so I realized about 3 years ago that most podcasters are something with a podcast. They're a UFC fighter with a podcast. They're a comedian with a podcast. They're whatever, investors with a podcast, right? It's not their profession. So I asked myself, what would it look like if we turned pro at being a podcaster? And part of that is the lift needs to be very low for most people that are busy doing other things, because they're busy doing other things. So they can't spend ages going towards this, one big production. So I started working with cinematographers. I got one of the best directors of photography in America. He's out of Nashville. I got a producer. We got grips, gaffers. We started using location scouts, and we started to dial in a very specific look. We started to use handheld cameras on tripods, monopods, dollies, doorways, ollies. We did the first ever 5-camera podcast on LED video wall, the same technology that was used for The Mandalorian. And as we were talking live, the video controller changed the scenes based on what we talked about. So if we moved from a war story to a scary story in a spooky house, we went from Afghan base with trucks driving around and helicopters coming in to a spooky house that had...
This is like literally the opposite of what Colin and Samir were saying with keep the budget low.
So no, but knowing what I know about production costs, that sounds like you're spending 30, 40 times an episode.
It's not far off that. We can get it down by squeezing here and there. Thankfully, my line producer is a sort of bully when it comes to trying to get that stuff down. But look, I like pretty things, and I think that one way that you can excel is to stand out visually.
Same
I'll go on stage with it. I like things to look nice, and I didn't see anyone that was really elevating the way that stuff looked.
Does it change the subject's mindset and the interview itself when they see how beautiful it is, when they see the investment in it? Does it change something in the subject?
So I have this belief that at least in the world of podcasting, we're sort of splitting into 2 directions at the moment. One of them is perhaps a little bit more elevated. It's the modern wisdoms, it's the Stephen Bartletts of the world. And then the other side is the more sort of low tech. It would be All In, it would be Matt and Shane's secret podcast. And then, you've got sort of a Rogan or a Flagrant that sort of sits somewhere in the middle, which is good quality, not insane. It's just facilitating the hang. Yeah. And I think that barbelling both of those is a good way to go. You can lean into the real sort of high-end production stuff. And when a guest turns up and they're like, wow, we're in 25,000 square foot warehouse in the middle of LA, and there's a team of 15 people here, and there's huge lights, and there's guys holding dollies. Like, they lock in. They're really there to, this is an occasion. This isn't me just turning up for a chat. But that wouldn't work for every type of show. In fact, what you want to do is facilitate a little bit more ease. Mm-hmm. So that's why I still like doing stuff over Zoom, or I guess like Riverside or whatever we use, because I want to have that casual sort of conversation. Not everyone wants to turn up and feel like it's the World Cup final of podcasting.
Yeah. Should we go to the monetization? So how do you start thinking about building the business, high quality content, authentic content? Was it a conversation about, hey, let me just put this out there, make ads, and I'll figure it out later? Or was it very deliberate, and how's the model kind of evolving for you?
Yeah, so it was emergent over time. You start off just taking whoever you can get. A lot of supplement companies and teeth whitening companies, whatever's...
You lead ads?
Yeah.
And they come in or you call out?
I did outreach for the first 500 or 600 episodes of the show. So I was managing my own ads, I was sending the invoices, I was slowly scaling up the CPMs. You can get between a $15, $25 CPM, something like that, audio only. I made a commitment not to do ads on YouTube, because if it was a virtual episode, it felt like it was such a low lift that kind of didn't justify making people sit through baked-in ads, at least on YouTube, but we got away with it.
Well, you have the option to turn them off.
No, these are hard-coded into the file itself. So you're just, that's what's referred to as baked in. And then, look, we've got ourselves to the stage now where we have some pretty interesting setups. I think I'm one of the only podcasters that does this, where we sell an entire ecosystem. So if you come on board as one of what we call our flagship partners, you get a set of impressions across the entire year, let's say 40 million, 60 million impressions. Then you get a number of Instagram story sequences on my Instagram. You'll get newsletter drops on my newsletter, which has got 300,000 subs and a 50% open rate, lots of click-through on that. And then maybe I'll come speak at your AGM, or I'll do something else, and we build out this big package.
That will elevate the level of the partner too, because they're being thoughtful. So you're going to remove the nickel and diming people who should just be buying cost per click ads on a Meta, and now you've got people who are actually thinking about their brand and what they want their brand associated with.
So I mean, Function Health, who I think on here somewhere, we did a 2-year deal with them, and I love what they do. I use them to track my blood work, and I thought, well, why would I not want to be in bed with a company that I use all the time?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, in our case, it's...
And you deepen the relationship as well. So Element, James from Element, if there's something he wants to talk about to do with brand, I have a good insight when it comes to brand, especially from a creative side or ad reads. And I'll happily just do a couple of hours of, well, this is what we've seen that's been working.
It's interesting when we were talking about the old media model. I'm new to all this stuff, so I'm not like big in this podcasting space, but I just observe. So maybe what I say is super reductive and obvious, but it's like you got these pharmaceutical ads on Fox News, and it's in between the segments. And none of the anchors give a shit about the pharmaceutical ad, nor do they talk about it or promote it, and they have no connection to it. There's no authenticity to it. But here, there's an opportunity to be selective and to have it be part of the content, part of the experience, and it actually probably does better as a result with the audience than you would get with that. Have you talked to your doctor about?
Yeah, well, look,
diarrhea,
in the same way, in the same way as following your instincts on the show when it comes to what you talk about. If you can get yourself to the luxurious position where you get to choose your partners as well, every single product I partner with, I use.
Let's talk about. So you got leverage
whitelisted advertising was something. We started on this. We started from the beginning, which was if I don't use the product or don't like it, we turn it down. We turn down all kinds of crazy offers from services that you'll hear. Like I was on Megyn Kelly and I heard her read 1 or 2 of these ads, and I was like, God, I would never read that ad because I know that if you type in that product and scam or complaints, it'll be like a long list of people complaining about it. And then we were talking about her business, and she's using a third-party agency to sell her partnerships. I said, Megyn, you're Megyn Kelly. Like, just get 2 ad reps and partnership people, and you have to build that leg of the stool. You've got the content, you've got the distribution, you've got the advertising, the partners. You have to have all 3 of the stool, or else.
Let me ask both of you guys 2 questions.
Who have you turned down? Like advertising wise? Category.
Anything which is to do with investing, we've said no to.
Buy gold.
Jonathan Mayaska stood there and he hates it because these guys are prepared to spend big money.
Yeah.
You don't want your customers losing money, being upset at you. It's free.
So I don't have the chops to be able to assess whether or not this bank or this new investment opportunity. Can you turn your Roth IRA into a 501k backed by? I don't know. I have no idea. I hear these things like a pension people. You don't know either. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so let me ask you guys both a question. In the old internet world, there were these companies that emerged within DoubleClick, a Quantive, that were the site rep firms. So there were a lot of independent websites out there. They didn't have the most sophisticated sales force. They couldn't go hire the 2 great sales reps to go do the work and dial in. There wasn't a very liquid market. So the site rep firms would rep your site. They would go out and get at. Do you see more of those kind of emerging today? Are they getting more sophisticated? Are they getting better to enable smaller creators to be able to kind of be successful in this space right now?
Maybe. I mean, I think it's a difficult.
You've never done it.
Finish your thought.
It's a difficult game to play because people can go to creators of sort of around about my size, and it's very reliable. You know what you're going to get in terms of plays, you know what you're going to get in terms of demographic, but the shows that are smaller aren't growing, so you don't actually know what it is that you're going to get. So maybe you can bundle all of these guys together into some weird sort of dispersed multi-channel network type thing, and they will bulk be sold by some company that sits above it, but it's so effortful. And when you think some podcast's going to do 25,000 plays, you could go through all the rigmarole and the red tape and the ad read to hit 25,000 people, or you could go to Rogan and hit like 100,000 times that.
Have you ever used site reps?
No, I always hated the concept, even when we were doing blogs, because you wind up, if you're going to take it seriously and you want to make it into a great effort, I think you have to have that relationship and not somebody mitigating it.
Right.
I think it's better if you just focus on the content until you hit, to Chris's point, the reach that is necessary to have people calling you on the phone and then being able to choose it. And there's other monetization that's available now, merchandising, creating premium content that people can do. And so it's just those are better avenues than using these rep firms. And the rep firms, it's a terrible business because if you do your job and you actually do make money and the creator does break out, then they will leave you like Megyn Kelly will leave hers, or I don't know what the one that does all the Tucker Carlson and all those folks. I'm just shocked. Like Tucker and Megyn were getting paid $10, $20, $30 million a year. They can afford to have 1 or 2 head people doing this for them and not giving 40% to somebody. It just corrupts the whole relationship.
Let me ask you guys both another question. So you've now got a great content creation engine, which is you. You have a great content creation at This Week in Startups, which is you. And then you got this advertiser set up, so you got ad dollars coming in. How do you get leverage so that it's non-linear? Any great business has a non-linear scaling function. And in your business, you guys are limited. And, this is something we've talked with Jay and Mr. Keith about. Like, if it's just you making the content, you can only make X number of units of content per month, per year. So that limits the scalability of the revenue for your organization in terms of how big this can get. Do you ever think about creating leverage in the system where you do almost like what a Spielberg does with an Amblin Entertainment or any great director, producer does, where they scale up, they become the producer, they create a network, they create a studio model, and then you have several content shows that are under your brand. And have you ever thought about that? Is that kind of the model where this is eventually going to go, where some of the great breakouts are going to end up realizing they can kind of scale up and build the next studio model?
If you want to do that, then fine, but I have no desire to start managing a ton of other content creators. Managing myself is...
What if you still did your show, but you have others that you cut down on, basically?
Perhaps, I guess, it just doesn't speak to me all that much. And I think the question is, what do you need this additional money for? Like, what is it that you just need to continue to build, like, more and more profit?
Right.
Because I quite like where I'm at. I like the level of revenue that I make, the workload that I have, the fact that I get to spend a morning reading, and I don't feel like I should have been on more Zoom calls. So my ability to put my foot on the gas or take it off is exclusively on me, as opposed to having other obligations. So it's very much a lifestyle business, and I understand that that's that's going to cap the upside. Now, there's some things I can start CPG, I can start to do some clever stuff with ads where that will begin to ramp and ramp and ramp. But yeah, I mean,
You've got a limited upside with how you spend your time now. You don't have to do work 24/7.
absolutely. And there may be a day when it's time to press that button again, but it's not right now. But just before Jason jumps in, you've got YouTube AdSense, partners, Spotify partner program, which is brand new, and that's actually ranking quite a lot. And then the one area that I think way more podcasters need to look at, which is monetizing clips. So you do mid-roll ads on a long podcast episode, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 50 minutes, 120 minutes into an episode, but you can also be 7 minutes into an 8-minute long clip. And you can crank clips out all the time. So you can be putting out one a day.
Right. And so there's other points of leverage.
Exactly. So you can look at, okay, how can we be a little bit more innovative? We can put Instagram stories up, we can use newsletters, these sort of 360 deals, and fill out all of the ecosystem where you can without obliterating the viewing experience and making the audience hate you.
You're right. I think that's well said. And there's going to be international as well with AI. I don't know if you've experimented. We have a company podcast AI, so we'll be dubbing stuff, and then that'll be built into YouTube. So all of a sudden you'll be in Spanish, Japanese, and French, and the whole cycle will start all over again. But I did actually try that at This Week in Startups. I got the domain name thisweekin.com, and we did This Week in Poker with Annie Duke, and This Week in Blank, This Week in Blank, This Week in Comedy. We tried a bunch of those. The problem was
You did different shows.
I did some different shows in the beginning. I did it for about a year, and what I realized was you could get, average hosts, broadcast hosts, but you couldn't get someone like Chris or Annie Duke for the long term. We had a guy, Dave Pensato, who was a music producer, and I wanted to do This Week in Music. He wanted to be the Dave Pensato show. He had his own view. And the really great creators, what they realize is, I want control of my art. I want control of my brand. I want to own my IP. I want to pick my team. I don't want to be part of a machine. And so what we're seeing is people like Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson now are free. Ben Shapiro started with, he was on AM radio in Los Angeles, and then he worked for Breitbart. And now he's got his own company. He makes his own decisions. I think a lot of the most talented people will want to be independent practitioners.
There's a sort of weird level that people get to. Anybody who is sufficiently talented for you to think that they're an A-grade player is probably not going to want to sit underneath anybody else. And if someone isn't that good, you're kind of just filling the air with something that maybe isn't going to catch.
So in the new media world, is it all just lots of independent producers and there's no studio model?
So,
Absolutely.
I think so. Because a lot of people want that lifestyle.
What happens when you get rid of distribution? It's not like we have to ask somebody for permission anymore. It's not like the record labels where you had to have distribution. You had to go to Columbia Records if you were Bob Dylan to be in a record store. You can just do it.
Yeah. Well, I think the question is the economic mode being, can you reinvest capital in creating high quality content? Because if that capital is invested well, it creates an audience. So if you give certain people money, people will show up.
More money comes out.
Yeah, more money comes out.
Yeah, so some high points of leverage would be getting a strategist who understands the YouTube algorithm and can ensure that no matter what it is you're recording and how honest and truthful that is to your instinct, it's being presented in the best way for the algorithm. We can repurpose clip. What are the sections that we're choosing? So one thing that hasn't been spoken about today, which is interesting on YouTube, is timeliness. So YouTube is increasingly becoming where people go to find out their news. So maybe you see something that trends on Twitter and you'll catch, some clip of some kind.
Yeah.
But then quickly over to YouTube, okay, where's the breakdown?
Yeah.
And you'll have seen, to use Shapiro as a good example, Daily Wire, I think it's called Ben After Dark or something like that. It's not Ben After Dark, it's Ben in his living room, because something's happened today, and before he can get back into the studio tomorrow, they need to get a video. Trump gets shot today, you need to do your video today, because people are going to be going, and that's the hack to get to the top. Because
we've had this issue where we put out a show, because we record Thursday mornings, and it doesn't publish usually until Friday afternoon. Something happens Thursday after we record, and the show sucks. And literally no one watches it. Yeah, no one watches the show.
That's not true. Everybody still watches it, but everybody complains.
The volume goes down,
freak out.
40% down.
What are we going to do?
But it's literally
about a 24-hour turnaround. It's like, sorry, that's stale, that's old now.
That's right.
Which is crazy when you think about it. I think this is the next great opportunity will be somebody who just is sitting there and has the ability to go live at any time. And
this is what a lot of streaming is doing, right? You look at Hasanabi, you look at Destiny, you look at Asmongold, Charlie, Penguin Zero. All of these guys are doing it now. Yeah, they're also playing, video games too, but they're commenting on a lot of culture, and they crush on this. Not because they're insane cultural commentators that are, really deep in the research, but because they're timely and they've usually got some take.
But it'd be really fascinating if somebody with depth, imagine if Sam Harris, when some breaking news story happened, turned on his live stream, and you're like, oh my God, we've got Sam Harris commenting on this assassination attempt, or et cetera. And you see it in sports. I noticed Bill Simmons has started, whenever there's a major trade, when the Kyrie trade happened, when the Luka Doncic trade happened, he just goes emergency pod. And I think they're really starting to embrace it. That is like a hack, and I think that will become a thing. I often go to the live tab on YouTube now just to see what they're talking about, right? It's typically low quality, but once in a while somebody will do something.
We were talking about the relatability, authenticity thing before. Yep. If somebody is talking about a developing situation which happened 3 hours ago, it has to be real. You haven't had time to become contrived. Totally. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah, I think that's a big point. What other content do you think is going to win, going to continue to accelerate time and attention away from other forms of content? So the long-form podcast conversation, learn about the world with me. Are there other forms that are out there that are interesting to you, that formats that you think are new or emerging or that are real winners?
I would continue to bet on Substack, I think, and that style of blogging, very frictionless, it's enabling writers to work out loud. I think Jonathan Haidt basically wrote his entire new book, chapter by chapter, published it on his Substack, allowed
The Anxious Generation?
I think there's another one about the Tower of Babel thing, which he's working on next.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's this seamless, transparent door. So writing, I think, has got just huge upside there. I'm not too sure what we're going to see from from short form. I'm aware that algorithmically it's able to like get the bottom of your brainstem really well. But you were talking about this before. It doesn't seem like TikTok creators are able to convert. One TikTok sub is worth 100 TikTok subs is maybe worth one YouTube sub.
Correct.
And
100 YouTubes are worth one email.
By the way, it's a lot like having a cigarette. Like you need it, but you don't want it. You know, you end up being like, I'm not really looking forward to that TikTok tonight. You're not really sitting there being like, can't wait to watch that TikTok.
Yeah,
but you get home and you're like, I need my TikTok. But you do look forward to seeing this great new movie that's coming out this weekend.
Or the latest episode of your favorite show.
Like, I want that. I don't need it, but I want it. And I think there's a big difference between that. And I think that's where the short form really hits the limbic system. It doesn't actually activate the rest.
I think this is a form of addiction that's going to wind up like MTV going away. MTV and music videos, we all as Gen Xers, I think you're on the tail end of Gen X or millennial? Millennial. Like, we kind of got addicted to it, and then it kind of went away as a format of just sitting there and watching 3-minute videos. And everybody thought our brains were getting scrambled because we were watching the AHA video and then this
TikTok
video.
said, hold my beer.
And TikTok's like, wait 1 second, 7 seconds. And I think it's fucking with people's dopamine to a level that they don't understand. And you do because you dip into this stuff and you have interest in it. But you can't fire your serotonin and see the moment, the most exciting, terrifying, funny moment in every piece of media, back to back to back.
Oh, dopamine addiction. It's
And
great.
the next day, people are feeling hungover. It's because they're fucking with that dopamine receptors in their brain, and then they can't have a normal conversation. They can't go to a normal dinner or have a conversation like
I
this.
feel happy having a walk and a long talk.
I think this is one of the reasons why I wouldn't bet against the reading thing. I'm aware it's limbically way less hijacking, but it feels like going to rehab for your dopamine system. It's one of the few things
It's hard.
that you can only do it, right? You can watch a movie in double screen.
Yeah.
You can be listening to a podcast while scrolling Instagram.
Yeah.
You can, you cannot read and do anything else.
I'll tell you what I think might win. My personal point of view on this is I think that content will get turned into like an AI chat experience. Jason makes fun of me about this, but I do sit in my car. I do a lot of long drives now. I was at my office, like Santa Cruz, and the city, so I drive a lot. And I talk to ChatGPT Advanced Voice. But I'll talk about a topic, and I'll like learn about it, and I'll engage with it, and I'll kind of go back and forth. But if I flip on like a book on tape or something, my brain wanders off, and I got questions and ideas, and I'm like, oh, then I start thinking about it, and I realize, oh man, 3 minutes have gone by. And so for me personally, and maybe this is just the way I'm wired, like I kind of like the interactive model, but I do think this great content, like Jonathan Haike's new book, gets put out as kind of an interactive mode where I get to go engage and start telling you about it, I can ask questions, and it's almost like I'm having a conversation with the author. Well, and that's where going back to the earlier point, like the cultural experience is the book written by the author, but the way I experience it is going to be different than the way you experience it in an AI world.
I would love to look at how people pay attention to a conversation between multiple people like a podcast compared with an audiobook. And the author is trying their best to come across with bounce and energy and engagement and stuff like that. But really it's not. And it's one person. It's one tone going through, recorded very carefully. Whereas when you've got stuff bouncing around, even that author talking about that book on a podcast, why am I so much more engaged? There's something about that which is more compelling. So
it's the way humans are. Humans aren't designed to sit on the floor and be lectured to by another human. Humans are designed to be social creatures, to have engagement, to have that process. And I think that's how it plays out in our brain. There's more of a responsive chemistry to that.
I'm excited for this pendulum to swing back and for people to like read a book again or to watch a Kurosawa film.
Well, that's 100% right.
No, I mean,
you can't watch a Kurosawa film and not feel.
I'll tell you what, I think for a lot of young people, they're missing out on some of like the great beauty in life is to be able to give yourself over for 2 hours to a Kurosawa film, or to give yourself over to a book for an hour, just about an hour. And that's what we're going to see, I think, in the coming years, is people are going to look at this like they looked at junk food, like they looked at cigarettes and say, this is not healthy for me.
You've seen that list of 5 regrets of the dying. It's things like, I wish I'd allowed myself to be the person I wanted to be, not the person others expected of me. I wish I'd worked less. I wish I kept in touch with my friends. I would bet an awfully large amount of money that one of them in starting about 30 years' time is going to be, I wish I spent less time on my phone.
Yeah,
and that's going to
I wish I deleted TikTok.
Great point.
Yeah.
By the way, we're going to continue the conversation. So guys, join us thanking Chris, and we're going to invite the rest of the crew back out.
Oh yeah, come on up, everybody. Brian, come on up. This is my friend Brian Johnson. Come on up.
Brian.
There we go. Can we get him a microphone or something?
Will you introduce Brian?
Yeah, Brian Johnson created a payments company. He was on This Week in Startups years ago, and then I looked up and he was sharing his nighttime erections on social media.
It's 3 hours and 12 minutes, yes.
3 hours and 12 minutes. We just
Brian, you're Kardashian famous now. Yeah.
Oh, really? You were on the Kardashians?
Yeah, last week's episode.
You were on last week's episode, and who was you were hanging out with Kim or which Chloe?
Andrew Huberman, who was the star of the show.
Who was?
Andrew Huberman and Brian. That was my Trump-Zelensky moment. You two in a room. I'm aware.
Oh, is this like East Coast, West Coast? It's like Crips and Bloods?
Yeah.
You guys get along, or is it?
We do it like, yeah, we're friends.
You're friends?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you do together? Like the two of you do together?
That's secret.
I mean, do you guys exchange blood? What's the...
It's secret, yeah.
Sus all in.
They do lab tests. They do lab tests on a Saturday morning.
Spotify moved to video. I think that's an interesting one to talk about. That's something people aren't really sort of factoring in, because you turn what was an audio platform into, is this audio? Is this video? Now there's trailers that you can see as well. And they are paying creators a pretty penny. So we were a part of the partner program for January and February, and we made more money from them with only 10% of our catalog uploaded than the entirety of our YouTube AdSense. So they're throwing everything at it.
Well, you do. We don't.
And we're working on it.
Yeah, but we're working on it. But I think also like there's I think in all these platforms when they announce a new monetization model, they need model citizens. And I think, Chris, like your show is a model citizen for Spotify. Like they put you on billboards. They're definitely going like, hey,
Golden Child.
Yeah, Modern Wisdom is the show you want to be on Spotify. It's video. It looks beautiful. It uploads quite a bit. It has a big back catalog. So I think it's a really interesting model. To me, it feels experimental. I think if it works, it's great. share of premium subscription revenue is awesome.
Are you going to be able to be within the vicinity of that passive smoke? I imagine this. You're going to be counting down how many minutes it's going to knock off your life.
Jason, what is this?
That's a Fuente. It's a nice cigar. You can just chew on it.
What's going to happen if I chew on it?
You get a little nicotine hit, and you're going to enjoy life for the first time in 3 years.
I don't know. I don't know if this fits into protocol. I mean,
Just chew it. Come on. Like that. So everyone here.
are you, should I do it? Wait, hold on. Before you say something. Don't die is in your hands. If I chew on it?
No.
Yes.
No.
Jason, that was a very clear response.
It's either that or you got to do Chris's ketamine. It's one or the other.
Chris, you ketamine?
Yeah, we'll do it backstage. I'm an expert promoter. I do everything.
Yeah. Do you want the cigar?
I'm okay, thank
You
you.
did ketamine recently, didn't you, Brian?
I did, yeah. I used that. So we built the brain interface at my company, Kernel. We were trying to build a wearable fMRI, and we had this question: what happens when? There's like when you take an SSRI or when you take ketamine. And so yeah, I did a dose, an intramuscular dose, and we measured my brain 30 days before the ketamine, during ketamine, and then 14
Was it an injection? You snorted it or you did this?
injection. We did the max FDA allowed amount. And what was cool is we
You
saw.
just did it on yourself. You're like, I'm just going to max out, right? Just like,
No, we had an IRB. We had it approved ethically, and what we saw. So
sorry, just real quick. Have you done ketamine before this?
no, first time.
So you're just chilling. You're like, I'm going to max out on ketamine.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I really get this. Like, I want to get your mindset.
We
Yeah.
wanted to see the effect. So like we had
When you say we, that's just you, right? Like,
well, okay, so we spent 6 years building this brain interface. So we built a custom ASIC. We like pushed it through COVID. Like it was like an all-in effort.
you don't have like an intern or 23-year-old analyst or something to be like,
Yeah.
max out on ketamine. Like,
But I was also doing blueprints, so I was like, this is interesting. Like, what actually happens to the brain when? And so, like, you think about, so you put this helmet on your head, and think of your brain like a globe. It has airports all around. You see traffic, like New York to Tokyo. And so my patterns were very fixed in that 30 days running up to ketamine. And then I did ketamine, and it just scrambles your brain. Like, all the traffic patterns are just remixed. And then 2 or 3 days afterwards, it drops. And so now you're like open-minded to new patterns. And then days 3, 4, 5, you come up to your old patterns again. So that's why it makes sense. There's this therapeutic window where if you do a psychedelic, you're open to new ideas and doing things.
Yeah.
But so like, there was on the second day, I was in the office. We were walking in between meetings. We had these big walls. And I thought, why don't I just jump over that wall? Like, why am I going to take this long route? I just jumped over the wall, not thinking about it. Like, Brian, what are you doing jumping over the wall? But I did really behave differently in the way I thought, the way I behaved. I couldn't really see my patterns very well, but because we were all watching it so closely. But it was cool. Now we have the ability to say what happens when you take anything.
but you could have gotten that information without doing that. Like,
Well, no, I think what you're referring to is, this phenomenon where it kind of refrags your hard drive a bit and you disconnect from reality. Did you disassociate a bit? Did you see yourself outside of your own body? Did you see,
Yeah, I did.
you were here and Brian Johnson's here, and then there's a universe, and then you go past the universe and you're in that space that's outside the universe?
Oh, yeah, same place.
Same place?
Yeah.
It's really great.
sorry, Brian, let me just, so there have been a lot of studies on this kind of neural plasticity that arises when you take these. You get like maximal neuroplasticity, like basically the neurons are out searching for new connections. It really kind of activates those cells to go hunting, and people get rewired. That's why trauma can get rewired out of your brain, and you can learn new stuff and develop new experiences, but it can also have profound changes on people's psychology, motivations, other sort of factors. Have you noticed any of that kind of residual effect? Motivations change, point of view has changed,
Relationships.
personalities are different, relationships for people like you're different, you're X, Y, or Z, you're not Brian,
Yeah.
where that's kind of affected you in a way?
It was only one time, so I didn't notice anything in particular. It was really that acute, like 2 or 3 day window. I think if I would have paired some therapy in there, I probably could have done something meaningful, but I didn't. Like we just were really looking at the quantitative measurements. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like it scrambles the brain. It was cool to see it because before this, nobody had ever seen ketamine on the brain. You don't see the patterns that are in place. You don't see what's scrambled. You don't see when they reform. And like you can take these patterns. Think of like a 96 by 96 grid. You can use these patterns to assess intelligence, emotions, and character traits. Like it's very informative. And so these things, when you assess and reassemble, you really can deduce a lot of you infer a lot of things about the person.
Yeah, I mean, we're joking about it here, but I have some friends who have spent a great deal of time, money, and effort on the MAPS project. Tim Ferriss, a number of my friends have really worked on this in a clinical session and setting, and it can have a profound impact on PTSD, on relationships, on trauma. But I just want to give people like a caveat here that these are extremely powerful modalities, and you need to do them in the proper setting. The setting, the dose are all extremely important. But people with PTSD, are coming out of, 9/11. My brother's a firefighter. A lot of firefighters in New York and first responders, they haven't gotten over it, and they've gone to some of these sessions and they've come out of it, and they found peace, and it can process. What can't be done in 100 sessions of psychotherapy can get processed in 2 or 3 of these sessions. I think it's very important that we take it seriously, even though some people are doing it at Burning Man and having fun with it. I get it. People want to do that.
There's a dependency risk with ketamine that there isn't with a lot of the other substances that you can use too.
This is the problem. It's interesting. My friend Tony Shea passed, and he got addicted to ketamine specifically, and it disassociated him. And that's the problem with the recreational use or the use alone, Chris. There's a lot of very notable CEOs I know, friends who have gotten into it, and they've had good intention, and then maybe they're at home watching Netflix or YouTube, and they are doing it out of boredom. And that's where it gets very pernicious. And I just be careful.
Can we go back just to the content creator piece? Brian, you basically started talking about don't die, and you've created quite a bit of content around this. What's the model for building a business where do you actively think, hey, I got to build an audience to get this effort to be successful?
Yeah. No, we actually didn't. So Kate, my co-founder, is here with me. We were posing the question, we thought it was a cool question to ask, are we the first generation who won't die? It was kind of like in 1870, you're back in there, you hear in town, people are like, hey, there's this new weird idea. There's this guy saying that there's these microscopic objects, they're called bacteria or something like that. They cause infection, they lead to death. And then others like, that's stupid as fuck because really it's just, it's bad spirits. We know that's causing the situation. And so if you're getting a surgery, you really care to know, is this a correct idea or incorrect idea? And it turns out bacteria are real. They actually cause infection. They can lead to death. And I think the parallel here for us right now is like, are we legit the first generation who will die? And so that was our effort, just actually scientifically go do that. And then someone did a Twitter thread on this, and it just went viral. I think 50 million views. And we're like, what's going on? The tsunami of hate came our way. And it was just like, there's so much raw energy under this topic. We didn't know that was the case. And so yeah, we've just been trying to basically take people along the journey of like, this is what we're doing. So content's really been like an afterthought to a primary mission, and now it's a primary modality for us to go after
And
this.
you productized it. I came home, my wife I was joking about the nutty pudding. It's not my favorite, but it's healthy, and I've had it a couple of times. I eat it, and my wife's got the whole cupboard filled with blueprint stuff. I was told the whisper number's over $100 million in sales.
Yeah, we'll be $100 million in less than 12 months. And so, but the goal was not to make money. It was like, so it went viral, and people were like, I love this, I want to do it, but it's so damn hard, right? You have to like source all this stuff, and we had learned ourselves that when we source things, that most labels are incorrect, most things are toxic, and there's like a disaster out there. So we started sourcing our own stuff. And so like, well, why don't we just package this up? Like CPG sucks. It's the worst business in the world. So we were legit like, do the world a solid, like make this available. Like we've worked so hard to make this available, and it's impossible to do unless you're all.
You're losing money, or you think it's just a very modest profit margin?
Very, yeah. So we're almost basically break even.
Got it.
Yeah,
So it's a 4 break even, not a 4, not a nonprofit. And Chris, you're drinking this new category beverage you created. Maybe you could talk a little bit about your intent with your product.
Yeah, I think one of the easiest
Hey, can we
hacks.
get a couple of these out here? I want to drink. I'm losing my energy. Thank you.
I think
Let's go, Jonathan. Hurry
one
up.
of the easiest hacks that you can do if you want to be successful in CPG is take something that people are already consuming, source it better, improve the formulation, and then put it back out. Right? A better for you. A better for you pair of underwear, a better for you chocolate bar, a better for you hydration drink. So we made a better for you energy drink. So evidence-based, research-backed, nootropic ingredients, efficacious doses, blah, blah, blah. We bootstrapped it, and I got to build it from the ground floor up and create the brand, come up with the copy, the shoots, and everything else. And I love it. And now we've got to the stage where some really big players are sniffing around, and we've only been in the market for 18 months.
Are you guys going to do a CPG business? It's kind of the trend du jour.
No,
What
I think
would you do? What are you going to do?
I mean, we're a little bit different in that, like, our value prop is creator education. So we try and think of, like, what is an extension of our value prop? And for us, digital goods courses, that's like a direct extension. So that's what we have.
As much as Brian is a content creator, I will say, like, I came across Brian's content, was marginally interested, kind of like, confused by it, then got invited to one of his dinners. And I really commend you for doing the dinners. Because I think the dinners, like, it's very unscalable, but it actually creates a lot of scale. And people come to those dinners like me. I've been talking about that dinner for, I don't know when that was, 6-7 months ago, and telling a lot of people about it. And it was a very impactful event. And I think actually, like, the creators today who are doing things like this, getting people together physically, last week when we were here, there's a creator named Jake Shane, sold out the Moody Center. It was about 3,000 people. He started as a TikTok creator, up there for an hour and a half by himself doing comedy.
Amazing.
And it's amazing. And I think, like, getting people together and actually having, like, face-to-face impact, that's where I think you can build a product like
You know how we were saying it's going to be lovely if there's a counter movement against the TikTokification,
Yes.
very short form video. I do get the sense that Coffee and Chill, do you know what that is? Go to Coffee and Chill or Mushroom Cowboy. These are daytime sober
Oh, I
raves.
saw this on TikTok.
Yeah, so it's, a couple of hours on a Saturday or a Sunday from 10 a.m. or midday or something like that. And I think that what we're seeing is the equivalent here of the work from anywhere, digital nomads, degenerate, wake up whenever you want, fuel yourself with caffeine and get back there to work. And this is the backlash against that, which is people are desperate for in-person events. They're desperate for stuff like this. And it's not just this. You think about any conference you've ever been to. The speakers, cool, whatever, they're the headliners you go to see. But what you're really there for are the conversations in the foyer, in between the different events.
I gotta say, like, the higher the barrier sometimes, the bigger the fan, right? Like, your episodes are 3 hours long. That's a pretty big barrier. Like, you get to the end, you're invested. Like, you're a fan of you guys. It's the same thing with events, right? Like, there are brands and creators now that are starting with events.
I think it makes so much sense. Like, think about it, like you give up your form of social engagement in a kind of free way, not a structured way, as soon as you're done with college. And then you're at the workplace. At the workplace, if you're working in an office, it's like you got the thing to do and you're done. And you go, like, where else do you have this kind of social engagement at scale?
We're also pre-selecting, as you say, if it's a 3-hour-long podcast, or it's a really niche topic, it's a particular series of Warhammer 40K that not many people know about, or it's some weird Japanese anime. Like, you are pre-selecting for people like you, assuming that you're interested in it. This is why Reddit is so good, right? If Reddit is a website filled with people who couldn't find others to have that discussion with in their hometown.
Right.
That's true. That's very true.
It's very true. Well, I just want to point out with these CPG products, the creators who are making them, like when you two gentlemen make something, or Saks is making this all in tequila.
Where's my super gut yours?
And yeah, Super Gut, which is fantastic. The peanut butter one is pretty good. You know that Freeburg's not making Super Gut, or you're not making Blueprint, or you're not making New Tonic. You're not doing it because you want to maximize profitability. You want to be proud of it. You want to know that the person buying it had a great experience and it was good for them, right?
Fills a hole that didn't exist. And the other thing, which I'm sure you guys have sensed as well, the online course is the best way if you want to. The margins are amazing, the scale is just fantastic, but you never get to see someone holding your course. You don't get to see someone.
if you do it as cohorts, which we have done, you get to see that digitally. And now our idea is to actually go, hey, can we take that and have that be also entry into a live workshop, live session?
How does people like create it on your own and see you on stage?
I'll make that right now. I don't think you guys want money than anything else on that.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Your question that you asked before was like, how does that compare? Like, right now, the reality is like in a single check, a brand deal makes more money when it's one client. And that's what we're watching right now in the course business is like, 100 people on an $800 product is significant. 1,000 people, it gets even more significant.
Because you guys will still think it's a live event, but the sponsors to get that target audience in a captive way will pay you more than they'll pay for the online. That's what you guys
We're also thinking
about the value prop for people go to school, they go $50,000, $250,000 in debt, and then what I hear from young people all the time is they go take a course afterwards, and that course for $800 does more from them in the marketplace and getting jobs than the degree did. And I think this roll your own education is very similar to function health in a way, which is like, I'm going to take control of it. I'm not going to have an MD direct my healthcare. I'm going to get my blood work myself. I'm going to do my research. I'm going to go on ChatGPT or Grok, whatever. I'm going to ask about peptides. I'm going to ask about this. I'm going to cross-reference. I'm going to listen to your podcast or Huberman, whatever. And I think that this self-reliancy and this new category of products and services that are available, it kind of resets this industrialization that occurred. I'm sure Procter & Gamble and some of these things didn't start out with the evil intent that is now in their products. Well, I'm not like Procter & Gamble shit. They're putting dying. Cereals. I'm going to shit about their sponsorship.
You're using Procter & Gamble toothpaste, so that's pretty.
No, I got tons of Procter & Gamble. I'm telling you, they literally are putting dye in children's cereal. They're putting corn syrup in children's cereal. They're poisoning the fucking country to make an extra 2, 3, 4, 5. What's the word you used? You were talking about the word in England you used, the C word.
Yes.
So I agree, Jason. So we just launched a new government called Don't Die Certified, and we're testing foods.
Oh yeah, let's go.
Baby foods, pet foods, all packaged foods. We got the results back.
You got the receipts.
We do, and so
Not bad.
it's worse than you think.
Yeah. Sorry, what do you have? Brian, what do you have? Dyes?
Yeah, so we're doing heavy metals. Heavy metals. Yep. Then we're doing glyphosate, some other agrochemicals, and then maybe a few values.
What's the worst product you got so far?
So we got results back from.
Have you done any phthalates? Have you done plastics? Or is that
Yeah, so we're doing that too. So we'll probably have it later. There's less evidence around that.
Yeah.
But it's like the cool model we're doing is if you find your food, go to the website. We'll launch this next week.
Yeah.
Find your food and say I want this tested. So you can then put up the money. If you get enough money, so it.
What does that cost? $3-4 grand?
No, like $500.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm doing 10.
Yeah, crowdfunding. So other people that also eat that thing from Sweet Green can be like, oh no, it's got loads of plastics in it.
Exactly. So the test is triggered, the results come back, and then we go to the brand and we say, hey, come claim your product. So they then come back and say, all right, now you pay back the people who funded your test. Like you should have been testing in the first place. So they're doing the work for you. So we want to do the food owned in the US. We want to test 20% of the foods that make up 80% of the US diet. So that we can say, on average, the average American consumed blank, mercury per day or cadmium or whatever. So we tested a few of the things. We looked at diapers. There was a dangerously high level of glyphosate in diapers.
For the cotton.
Cotton, exactly.
Roundup Ready cotton.
Exactly. And then we also tested tampons.
High
High heavy metals.
Which brands?
heavy metals.
Call them out right now.
Yeah, we can't get, so we
You got the test soon.
exactly. So we're doing the first field, but dog food was really bad. Which makes sense. Dogs been living, they're shorter lives now. But yeah, once you start seeing this, it's really pretty.
If you guys check out plasticlist.org, do you see that?
Oh, yeah, that's another rich dude spending his money intelligently. I love it. No, I'm totally honest. Hold on a second.
I know it's all. I know it's super hyperbolic, but like just the plastic thing is really important to note. They rank things, but you also have to look at the absolute numbers. This is where this can get a little too carried away. I think that there's a lot of shocking shit in there that's super bad, but you've also got to recognize that a tiny amount that's like 1 trillionth of something that could ever affect your body to flesh out may not be that bad. So we've got to be really cognizant on how we interpret this stuff.
These motherfuckers knew the whole time they were doing it. They knew. They were these the
Brian's
industrial
like,
complex.
like,
I am so infuriated about this because these people, it's true, it's true. They knew they were doing this, and it takes some rich guy who's bored and principled. No offense, I love you. And who's the guy who's doing the plastic battle?
Zach,
That's another rich internet guy. He's like, you know what? I'm bored. These guys are screwing people over. I'm going to test plastics.
Sally Hardy turns up with 400,000 signatures outside of Kellogg's HQ and says you make it in the same factory, the Canadian version, which uses beetroot colouring and carrot colouring to make it, and the exact same factory is throwing Red 40 and...
Yeah, so getting back to Jason on this, so Gerber, so there's a law passed by California that said baby food providers have to disclose heavy metals in their foods. So it went into effect January 1, and so we go to Gerber's website.
All heavy metals.
Yeah, I think the four different. And so okay, so go to Gerber's website, I can't find heavy metals results anywhere. And then I realized my VPN's on, and I'm coming from a server outside of California. They've IP blocked.
No way.
So yeah, California only IP origination. Wow. They hide it. And so this is what I'm saying. These companies, like,
these are nefarious.
It's really not good. I mean,
what do you think of Bobby Kennedy, friend of the pod, and him taking this on from Maha? I don't want to make it political, but
How do we get to this?
Freeburg, this is the good shit, man. This is the good shit. Yeah, they love it. Man. This is how it works. We take little detours. We take detours. This is a side quest worth taking.
Give me one of your nicotine drinks.
Maybe this isn't the other green room. This isn't the other
I'm okay. I just don't want to correct it.
What do you think of Bobby Kennedy?
I think he is going to challenge status quo power. And I think that's going to create a lot of conflict and a lot of reconfigurations. I think he'll refract.
I like the
There's a lot. Look, there's a lot of really important questions being asked that are not asked in the way that they're being asked now. That's the most important thing. Is the system need to be challenged, and whatever's left will get hardened, and whatever shouldn't be there will get blasted away. And that's it.
You got to name and shame.
You got to ask
the thing that really pisses me off. You got to name and shame in order for them to do what's right. That's what's so fucked up.
I want to do an NBA days or.
I don't know. I felt like this was going in a nice direction. I enjoyed it. I had a conversation I find enjoyable.
Just give it any cool AMAs. People ask you questions.
I've got a question for Brian in the meeting.
Brian,
if you were to, without someone having to completely decimate their entire diet and never look at meat again, what would you say are sort of top triaged lifestyle changes most people should look at making based on what it is that you guys have looked at?
Yeah, I mean, the power laws are so clear. Sleep is like by far and away the biggest power law. Then exercise, 2, diet, 3. And so it's just being consistent on those 3 things. And once you get those 3 layers, you can go down other layers. But like what we've tried to do is we try to say, anything which increases my speed of aging is a form of die. So how do you eliminate that? And then we just start with the power loss. I start with 0 all the way down and just,
Top 3 days for sleep.
So the thing you want to do is you want to lower. So the key marker is lowering your resting heart rate before bed. That is the I'd say if you could optimize one marker in your entire life, it's that. So before you go to bed tonight, look at a wearable or take a pulse. It's your resting heart rate. So tonight, let's say you're at 55. So your goal for the next week or two is try to get down to 50. The next month, 45. As you do that, so the way you drop it down is you have your final meal of the day at least 2 hours before bedtime. So if you go to bed at 10, be done at 8, and then push it back an hour. Okay, 30 minutes each day, and as you push it back more, every day, your heart rate's gonna go down incrementally because your body has more time to digest. So then you also find the food you eat. If you eat a big pasta or pizza or something, it'll jack the heart rate. So mine right now is 44 beats per minute. So if I eat late in the day, my last meal of the day is at noon. I did that after like a few hundred experiments of like what optimizes my resting heart rate. If I have a big meal like 5 or 6, I'll get like low 50s, and that will take away about 30 to 40% of my sleep.
So you go to sleep super hungry.
Actually, I'm okay. Yeah, my body's really adapted. So food is a really big one, and then 2 is wind down routine. So you need to calm yourself down. You can't have your phone up. You need to turn it off. Give yourself like 30 to 60 minutes. Decompress from the day.
So leave your kids in the house and go sleep in the garage.
Yeah.
One shower. That could help.
And actually, a book in hand has probably the best evidence. Yeah, it's what Chris was saying, right? It's like you can't do anything. So screen off, book in hand, spend even 10 minutes, and you'll be amazed at how much it'll calm you down.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff around. People thought it was the blue light from screens that were impacting melatonin release and cortisol and stuff as you went to sleep. It seems like it's much more what you're interacting with on the phone. That you're so engaged, that dopamine's firing, you're probably getting riled up, like you're sending stuff to friends, it's triggering all these ideas in you. Suppose if you just sit down and read Red Rising or something by P.S. Brown, you go off to sleep dreaming about being it.
Exactly, and you can measure it by how much your heart rate goes up or down.
Yeah.
So you now have a quantitative benchmark every single day if you can pick those habits.
Regularity versus duration, what's more important?
Consistency is so important because your body tells time like a clock. Like I did 8 months of perfect sleep, 100% sleep every night to show I can do high quality sleep.
You're tracking on Whoop or you're tracking on
Basic
sleep?
Whoop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they tend to are pretty close.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean they're all relative comparisons. They're not absolute. So just find one. They're all fine.
Yeah, and this has been the big unlock for me. I am now sleeping. I got a 94 last night. I got a 99 2 nights ago. It's my highest score ever. I'm really dialing into sleep, and it's changed everything for me.
It's the biggest life
Big unlock.
improvement you can do. Period. It's the best performance enhancing drug. It is just better than anything on market. But like be consistent because your deep sleep window happens in the first 2 hours of night. It's also that the garbage trash collector comes through to pick up all the trash in your body. If you miss that window, you miss it. So you miss the garbage trash collection. So that's why pick your bedtime and be consistent. Otherwise, you get junk accumulation.
So on the inverse of that, I have a 6-week-old baby, so I have like the least consistent sleep right now. How long can I endure that?
I'll tell you 2 things that also work for me because I sometimes sleep with my bulldog, and I was killing it. But I got these nice headphones, and I'll listen to some really high fidelity sleep music and use an eye mask, and both of those added a couple of points, and that was really a good unlock for me. How do you sleep, Chris?
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Yeah, audiobooks are good to sleep, turn that off. And you probably got a problem with the ionizing radiation, non-ionizing radiation. You bothered about Bluetooth headphones, Brian?
No.
Oh, that's good. That's the first thing I proposed to you that I'm still allowed to do. Everything else is like the fun police. It comes in and tells me everything's go to die police, I guess.
Yeah, I'm actually the happy police, right? Like the shit I say, it makes you happy. People they have this misconception that like staying up late and missing bedtime and drinking is happy. It's not. It is sad. It makes you depressed. Like, and let's be honest. Like we think it's happy. It's not.
Well, listen, thank you to all of our guests. And, you're very busy. I really appreciate you coming here. I know that you've been busy, and congratulations on the big win for Nosferatu. That was great. That's an Oscars reference. Thank you to the people who got it. But seriously, are you worried because, yeah, are you sure what you're doing like this extreme is a good idea? I'm a little concerned about that. You might be turning into a vampire, right? You are doing the blood transfusion?
Yeah, I did it because my dad was experiencing cognitive decline, and he called me in a panic. And he said, I will do anything to save my consciousness. And so I did it for him. So the headlines was all about my son and my MD. But
Well, you did a transfusion with your dad?
yeah, that was
So
all.
after doing it with your son?
Yeah, so
3-generational.
Yeah, so my dad called me. He's like, okay, I'm experiencing cognitive. So he was writing something for work. He walked away and came back, and it was a jumbled mess. And he's like, I'm experiencing cognitive decline, and I can't see it. He said, I thought I would start like forgetting names or like missing keys, but like right there in front of me, I didn't see the jumbled mess. He called me. He's like, I'm panicking. And so I was like, Dad, we're actually looking at this new evidence on these plasma infusions. I'm happy to give you plasma if you want to try it. Like, we don't know if it's gonna work or not. So then my son heard, he's like, I'm in. Like, we'll do a tri-generational thing. Like, great, it's a family activity.
Is there any empirical evidence on this?
Yeah, this is we should talk about this another time, but there's a lot of good work on this.
You think that this is a path we're
Yeah,
pursuing?
it's a longer conversation.
Chris, what are you doing after you want to do
I'm pretending with Brian.
Okay, can we transfuse this?
Thank you, Jason Colicons. Go to @Jason on.
Try new Nature Made Zero.
This is your friend Edmund Dakin, aka Adrian Dittman. This has been Content Licensing All In Podcast YouTube. This is our quest for content monetization. We'll have the first exclusive Clown House troll monetized content in the world. We are verging on full monetization now. Hope you've enjoyed this podcast.